The information provided in the following program is not a substitute for or intended to be medical advice. Medical advice can only be provided to you by your personal physician.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Thursday morning and time for our natural health consultants. I'm from High Point Health Center in Highland Park, New Jersey, 249-9800. I'm happy as always to be speaking from WCTC Studio in Somerset, New Jersey. The number here is 545-9282. So, welcome on Facebook, welcome if you're listening live, and if you're listening later on a podcast, welcome to you also. I was told last week we were heard in Colorado, California, North Carolina, Florida, and Israel. So I really appreciate when people share this with other people because, as I've said many times, I really enjoy doing this and I love sharing information. So this morning I had an emergency patient in the office before coming in, and I was so glad that she came in. I'm glad she's feeling better, and I'm glad she came in because she told me a line from a movie that I just loved. She knows that I love movies, and she asked me if I'd seen the Christopher Robin movie, which I hadn't. She says, "Oh, you got to see it. There's a great interchange in there." And she said, I forget which character. One character said to the other, "What day is it?" And the other one answered, "It's today." And the other one said, "Oh, great. That's my favorite day." And that's kind of the way I like us to live our lives, that today is our favorite day. So let's answer a few questions from, since it is today, let's answer a few questions from last time, as I like to start things. First question I actually got this morning when I came into the studio is honey as bad as sugar? Well, they both have problems. Honey, in a sense, would be the better because it's a whole food, and if it's not been cooked and if it's unrefined, then you also have the benefit with honey of having minerals and nutrients in with it. So it's got the advantage there. The downside of honey is that it's made up also of fructose, which is fruit sugar. And fructose, although for years people were sold on it being great, and as a matter of fact, it's still used often as a sweetener, the bad news is that in terms of blood sugar, fructose, hold on to your hats, is actually worse than glucose, table sugar. And the reason that the misunderstanding came into being was when they did the original studies on fructose, they watched what happened to people's blood sugar. And the truth is that if you just take a spoonful of table sugar, your blood sugar level rises up much more quickly, but then it levels off. Whereas with fructose, it takes a little while, but it jolts your blood sugar even worse. So I'm not a fan of either. I'm not a fan of things that use any kind of sweetener. Maybe xylitol or things like that would be okay. Much better to use the whole food. Like people say, well, how about coconut sugar? Because coconut's good for you. Yes, coconut is good for you. When you pull the sugar out of it, it loses its benefits and it has problems. So sugar is sugar wherever you do. And if you're going to have a little bit of honey, that's okay. Actually, the sweetener which has the least effect on blood sugar levels is maple syrup. So I tell people if you want to sweeten with something for a little bit, and if you like the taste, please go ahead and use a little maple syrup. We'll talk much more about that in future times when we go more into diabetes. Second question I got was, well, I thought coffee was good for you. Isn't coffee is good for you, right? Isn't it? Isn't people like, isn't it? People say too much coffee. Isn't it good for you? Isn't it? Isn't it? They're all hyped up. And the truth is that, and they said, yeah, because it's got antioxidants in it. So the idea of antioxidants is a huge misunderstanding. Yes, coffee has antioxidants. The antioxidants in coffee are there to protect the coffee bean. Antioxidants are like a shell around the food, and while the antioxidants are in coffee, I'm not sure exactly how much good it does you. It's doing a lot of good for the coffee bean, and that's what it's designed for. That's why it's there. So does coffee have some health benefits? Maybe a little bit here and there. I like a good cup of coffee. If I'm driving 2 o'clock in the morning and I can't stay awake, I'll have a couple sips because I'd much rather have a little coffee than if I don't have time to pull over or whatever. But in general, coffee, although it has something good in it, perhaps it's not for you. It's for the coffee bean. A little bit of coffee perhaps is okay. It's the same kind of question people ask. I tell people the same way as saying that there's iron in nails, but you're not going to eat nails for the iron. The same way, don't have coffee for the antioxidants. If you want a little coffee because you enjoy it, fine. If you're looking for the antioxidants, much better places to do it. Another question I got this week, what is the name again of that supplement you're talking about all the time that's good for circulation? I don't mind telling you again because it is so good for you. It's called taurine, Taurine. Very inexpensive, very helpful, 1,500 milligrams a day. Usually it comes in 500 milligrams, so you would need to take 3 a day. And it's good for circulation, it's good for your heart, it's good for your arteries. Another question I had from last week was about hormone testing. People wanting to know if we can do different kinds of hormone testing and break down things. And the truth is, blood testing is good for certain things with hormone testing, but saliva testing gives us much more information. So if you're interested in finding out about your hormone levels, we need to do both blood and saliva testing, which, of course, we do in the office. A lot of questions this week. I'm happy to go through them. Once again, another question about gluten. And, this week when I told another patient that gluten was bad for them, they say, I know you just tell that to everybody. And the truth is, no, I don't. Gluten is bad for everybody, but it's not so bad for a lot of people. Gluten is inflammatory to the body, and if we know that eating foods that are inflammatory are really a prescription for trouble. But a lot of people can have a little gluten here and there. It certainly shouldn't be a major part of their diet. But the problem is that the blood testing, which is done for gluten by the major laboratories, and the major laboratories, of course, at least in this area, are LabCorp and Quest, are very, very limited in what they test. Gluten has approximately 20 different ways in which it needs to be tested to know if a person is reactive to it. So how do they test it? They look to see if you have antibodies or if you have things that your body has created to fight against gluten. Because if you don't have a gluten problem, then you should not have antibodies to it, meaning your body shouldn't be fighting it. But gluten has about 20 different ways in which it needs to be measured, and LabCorp and Quest test 3 or 4 only. And this is the kind of testing that has been done for the last 30 years. There are specialty labs that test it much more thoroughly. So if you're told that you have a gluten problem based on LabCorp or Quest or some other lab, you've got it. You don't need to do more testing. End of story. Sorry, you can't have it. But if you were told that you're okay based on those tests, you don't really know. You know that you don't have those problems, but you have not had a complete test. And one of the things that I'd like to do, which I'll talk about in the next segment, we'd like to do genetic testing for it also, which turns out to be very inexpensive and very conclusive. I had more questions about diabetes, which we just touched on last week, but we'll get into that a little bit later also. The other question which I got, which people are very sad to hear when I tell them that I don't think seltzer is good for them. I never knew so many – I personally don't like seltzer. So for me, I gave it up without a problem. But many people love seltzer. And why is it so bad? What's so terrible about it? So let's put it like this. When you drink seltzer, number one of the problems, if nothing else, is that you're drinking it instead of water. And water is important to drink, and it's good for you. So it is no way a substitute for water. If you want to have a little bit here and there, it's probably okay. But it should absolutely not be your main thing that you're drinking. Secondly is that if you're having a flavored seltzer, there's a good chance that there's MSG in it. Not always, but there's a good chance. And why do I say that? unfortunately, a lot of chemicals can be put into a food or a drink under the guise of concentrate. And if you're drinking something or eating something with a concentrate in it, just know you have no idea what's in it. Because according to label laws, a lot of junk can be thrown in without you having to know about it, including in baby food, by the way, if you eat baby food. And if you're a baby listening, I want you to be aware of that too. However, there are other ways it can be put in. There's all kind. Maybe next time or one time we'll go over all the ways in which things can be put into your food. But if you that's right. Another one is natural flavors. What could be wrong with natural flavors? Well, everything is natural. You know, with food labeling, you have to know how to read the label. There is nothing unnatural. If it was unnatural, you wouldn't be able to have it. Natural is not a defined word by the food industry. So if you're eating something with natural flavors and thinking, oh, at least it's natural, MSG is natural. Everything is natural. So these are different ways in which the food industry is able to sneak things in without having to disclose what's in it. So that's some of the answers to last week's questions, and the time always goes so fast. I hope you enjoy when I do that. A lot of people have told me they like that kind of potpourri of different subjects quickly to start the show. We're going to take a break in a moment. We're going to come back with something that's called genetic phobia, fear of genetics. I'm going to talk about that and why we need to all get over it and get tested. Dr. Harry Schick, Natural Health Consultants. Join us in a few minutes. We've got a lot of exciting things to talk about.
This heavyweight bout is about to begin. The challenger wears white trunks with a blue stripe, and the champ is wearing, looks like an examination gown from the doctor's office. And from the back, we can... Ooh, that's not pretty. Champ, what's with the crazy getup?
I've got to take care of my family.
Yeah, so?
Well, when you love your family, you got to go in and get those important medical screenings. A lot of potentially deadly diseases can be treated if you catch them in time.
So you wear the examination gown because...
Because I'm a real man. Real men take care of their families and get those tests. Real men wear gowns.
Okay, champ, good luck. Here we go. The champ's not wasting any time. Oh, it's over. This fight is over. Champ, you barely broke a sweat. Any words for your fans out there?
Remember, go to ahrq.gov for a list of the tests they need to get and when to get them.
What was that web address again?
ahrq.gov. And remember, real men wear gowns.
Go to ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, AHRQ, and the Ad Council.
Join New Jersey General Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin for Speak to the Speaker on WCTC, the second Friday of every month at 9 a.m. Speaker Coughlin discusses issues of critical interest to Central New Jersey, as well as the latest goings-on in Trenton politics and all of New Jersey. Only on 1450 WCTC and WCTCAM.com.
Speak to the Speaker is presented by Hackensack Meridian Health JFK Medical Center. Life years ahead.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Natural Health Consultants. Welcome back. Remember, what day is it? Today. Everybody say together, that's my favorite day. I love that saying. Okay, so I mentioned that we're going to talk in this segment about genetic phobia. It's my second favorite phobia to talk about. We talked last week about cholesterol phobia, the tremendous fear of cholesterol, which we're going to talk about again in future times. But genetic phobia is something that I've just noticed because, I've talked to you about in past weeks that we started doing a lot of genetic testing with people. And understandably, in a way, but I've also been a little bit surprised at how many people – no way, I don't want to do genetic testing because I don't want to know what's coming. And I understand that if you're thinking about genetic testing being the kind of testing where we're going to test your genes and then we're going to find out when your doom is coming, what it's going to be, and when you should get ready to check out of the planet. But that's not really what it is. And the truth is that any genetic problem that you have, which you cannot do anything about and which you're absolutely going to get, you were probably born with, right? So there are genetic conditions that people unfortunately are born with, or fortunately it could be a good genetic thing, but, we think of it in negative terms. But if you weren't born with a genetic problem, that means that your body, those genes have to be turned on. Those quote-unquote negative genes have to be turned on. That's a whole field now which is called epigenetics, meaning you're not born with it, and as long as you do not assault yourself with different kinds of stresses, those genes never have to be turned on. So we don't have to be afraid of those genes. However, I'm not even talking about those genes. I'm talking about other ones. So let's discuss what is going on with this genetic testing. Okay, so I want to talk about the most common kind of genetic testing that people have heard about and which has become more popular. And really this whole genetic revolution started with is something called, and it's by the initials, MTHFR. Okay, so a lot of you have probably heard of it. If you go online, you'll find, in Google, in 1 second, 20,000 websites will show up. It's a very, very popular subject, and it should be because it's involved with something called methylation. And methylation is key to your body health. So let's talk about it in concrete, basic terms because it can get very complicated and doesn't have to be. So what is this methylation thing? So let's pretend that you've got a good fairy in your body or you've got a good delivery system or a messenger system that runs around your body head to toe and looks for a reaction that's trying to happen. What would be an example of that? Maybe your brain is trying to make serotonin or dopamine or epinephrine. Maybe your ovaries are trying to make estrogen or progesterone. Maybe your adrenals are trying to make cortisol. Maybe you've had some cells which have broken down and need to be repaired. Excuse me. Maybe you've got, any good thing which your body needs to do, hormone, neurotransmitter, body repair, whatever it is. So this messenger system is roaming around your body, and it looks and it sees, that reaction is trying to go, and it needs a little energy to do it. So I'm going to drop a little energy bomb next to it, which is called a methyl group. methyl. You don't have to know the name. You just have to know that there are these circulating things around your body which are trying to activate your body to do all these wonderful things for you. And those are called methyl groups, which is where the M in the MTHFR comes from, methylation. So, and this is a natural process. Your body does it. The way I know that your body is doing it, because if your body wasn't doing it, you wouldn't be here listening to me. But it's not enough that it's just happening. We want it to happen efficiently, 100%, as much as we can. So there's a genetic test, which was the first one of this whole group that became very popular to see if your body methylates well. It's a simple test, and you can even do it through blood work, although we like to do it through saliva because we get so much more information that way. And if you knew a little bit about it or heard about it, then you would have heard that you're given certain B vitamins if you have the problem and so forth. Okay. So with the new genetic testing that we have, we go beyond that. So let's go back to talking more about that little messenger that goes around your body, dropping these good methyl groups all over your body. It's in a garage, and it's being filled up with methyl groups that it wants to drop around. And before it can leave the garage, it has to do two things. Okay, you with me? It's got a car filled with methyl groups, and before it can leave the garage, it's got two jobs to do before it can go leave the garage and run all over your body. It has to make two things. One is called choline, and one is called creatinine. Those are two natural substances that your body needs. So why does the car stop and do those things first? Why can't it leave the garage before doing that? Because making those two things are the most important things it does. Right? It's beautiful. You have to sometimes sit back and go, what an incredible system. Good thing we don't have to think about it. It happens automatically and autonomically, because if we had to think about it, we'd be in big trouble. Who can remember to do all this stuff? So before it leaves the garage, it has to make these two things. Good. Next step. There is part of the genetic testing we do is to find out if your body is efficient in making them. So if you have a problem, not like the MTHFR, which means you can't make the methyl groups in the first place, we're skipping past that. We're going to the next step. Okay, you've got the methyl groups, and now before the car can leave the garage, it needs to make choline and creatinine. And if it doesn't do those, it's going to stay there. Sure, it will leave the garage, but it's going to use up so much energy. Let's say it had 1,000 methyl groups in the car, and it really, let's say it needs to use 10 on making those two things. So it's going to leave the garage with 80 methyl groups. Incredible. Go do a bunch of things. But if it has to stay in the garage and it has to use up 80 before it even leaves, because there's something wrong with the mechanism in the garage, it's only got 20 to spread around the body. Very inefficient. So now your body isn't making dopamine because there wasn't a methyl group to do that. And instead of having, hey, today is a wonderful day, my favorite day, you're feeling a little bit down today. Not enough dopamine. Oh, well, maybe I'll, smoke a cigarette, have a cup of coffee, I'll do something, take a medication, okay, to increase my dopamine. Well, why don't we look first and see if you've got the methyl groups that you need for your body to make its own dopamine. You with me? Okay, so let's say you've got problem number one. It's in a genetic area called PEMT. I don't really have to tell you that. I'm just proud of myself that I finally memorized it, so I'm showing off. So let's say it's in a genetic area called PEMT. The other one is GAMT. But let's say PEMT, which is the choline one. I remembered that because the PE, the E is in choline at the end of the word choline. That's how I memorized it. Okay, so what do you think? Let's think about this. So what are we going to do if your body is inefficient in making choline and your methyl groups are being used up there? What's the solution? I'll give you 5 seconds to think. 1, 1002, 1003, 1004. Good. Some of you got it. Hey, why don't I take choline? And that's exactly what we do. We give people choline to take so that the car doesn't have to use up so many of its methyl groups in the garage to make the choline. You take the choline, and now it can leave the garage with all of its methyl groups or most of its methyl groups intact. It goes around. It can make estrogen, help your body make estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, serotonin, all of the things, more DNA. Body repair, we take for granted a little bit that the cells of our body, except for the cells of our nervous system for the most part, these are all new cells. Your cells are constantly being broken down and repaired with new cells. Sometimes we have to break them down. I cut my finger today, so I had to make – it's okay. I'm okay. Don't worry about it. So I had to the body had to make new cells. Okay. It hurts a little. Okay. Now I'm okay. So, but but even if the cells are not – even if the cells are not injured, they have a lifespan to them. Different cells of the body have a different lifespan, whether it's the cells of the stomach, cells of the elbow, wherever. So your body needs to have this repair process. Methylation is a key part of that. So we have to be careful that we are not stuck anywhere, and your body can make all the methyl groups that it needs. So I'm helping you now as your genetic therapist get over genetic phobia. Okay, so if we did nothing else except that, and I think you're beginning to see how amazing this test can be. I wouldn't have known this about you without doing this test. Same thing with creatinine. If you have that, we give the person creatinine. So the car can leave the garage and do all the wonderful things that it needs to do. So we do the test. It's a saliva test, very easy to do. Right now, the place we like to do it through is Ancestry.com. They give the most information for the money. I always tell people, if you get the test, do not pay extra for their genetic interpretation. Then you're going to feel doomed when they tell you all the things which are not true. And I think it's whatever the reason is. So if you do buy that test, just buy the simple one. It's not going to tell you the genetics. It's only going to tell you that you're a descendant from the Queen of England or the king somewhere. But we can interpret it for you, so you let us know, and we can do the full interpretation. So I hope that helps a little bit. Hope it gets you encouraged about doing this testing, because it is absolutely wonderful. And as you can see, I'm very excited about it. We've been doing it for a while now. Really helped a lot of people with things that we were having a hard time with. Okay, so we're going to take a break in a moment. Please stick around for our third segment, and stick with me. And if you have any questions, you can Facebook me, or you can call in, or you can just wait and talk to me during the week like a lot of you do. Dr. Harry Schick, Natural Health Consultants. I'll see you in a minute or so. Hang in there.
If you're not facing your mortgage issues, this can be the most terrifying sound in the world. It means you've fallen behind. It means hope is dwindling. It means you're another call closer to losing your home to foreclosure. Fortunately, there's hope. If you need real help and guidance, call 1-888-995-HOPE. That's 1-888-995-4673. Because nothing is worse than doing nothing.
Brought to you by NHS of New York City, Brand New Day, RUPCO, MHA of Southwestern Connecticut, NeighborWorks, and the Ad Council.
The new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. Ask the Doctor with Dr. Derek De Silva.
Hello, I'm Dr. Derek De Silva, host of Ask the Doctor. It's been 20 years for me right here on WCTC, and we've shared lots of great times together. I will continue to update you on the latest news from the world of medicine. So join me Saturday mornings right here.
The new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
No, I don't keep any business. Okay. Welcome back for segment 3. As usual, my pleasure to welcome Honey Sturzer, who's here to join us. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
How was that genetics talk? Did it make sense?
Yes, I thought it was very much on target and really super interesting.
I appreciate that. And the thing with genetics, just because you have something also doesn't mean that it's a problem. Because when we look at genetics, there could be 60 things. And I had a patient yesterday who said, we just go over all 60? No. We're only going to go over the things that are important to your health. That's why you're coming to me and not just going online and trying to figure it out. But with the blood work that we do, which is, if you've done blood work with us, the most common word that the phlebotomist will say is, wow, so many vials, because we're very extensive in the way we do it. But if I have the genetics and then we do the blood work, we can see actually the expression of the genetics if it's been a problem. So I'm not big on, and I've never been big on, just, somebody comes in with their blood work, or we do blood work and we see 15 things, trying to fix all 15. The reason to go to a clinician is to figure out those things which are most important. Many, many times we've been able to fix 1 or 2 things, and the other 8 things which we never even fixed got better. Listen, let's remember, the body is designed to heal itself. Our job is a facilitator to give it what it needs so it can go ahead and do that. When I went to chiropractic school, my favorite thing was when, the emphasis there was always on that we are not the healers. The healing comes from, the body is programmed to heal. Our job is to get all the interference out of the way so that the body can go ahead and heal itself. And I love that philosophically. I love it spiritually, and that's really what we do. We work on getting your body in place to do what it needs to do.
Yeah, it's so true what you're saying, and the piece of the genetics gives us the rest of the story, because when you look at the blood and you just work on what you see in the blood and you don't really know what's driving that. So say that you see inflammation and then you start taking all these anti-inflammatories, but you're not really getting a sense of what's driving that inflammation. Whereas when you do the genetics and you can see if there are any genes that have an issue or a variant, and then you address that, you can stop taking the anti-inflammatories because you're actually at the foundation and the root cause of it. And it's amazing how much better people are feeling.
Right, and medication really should be designed, if you need it, as a bridge to get you from point A to point B, not a bridge for the rest of your life. There are some circumstances where you need that, and I'm not against it, but a lot of medication which is designed really to be short-term. For example, a lot of the sleep aid medications, if you ever look online and look up these medications that some of you who have been on for years, you're really not supposed to be on it for more than 2 or 3 months. and really at that point supposed to get to the bottom line of what's going on. And it's horrifying to see people being on it for so long. And talk to us. That's what we do. 249-9800. Our office in Highland Park. We do a lot of work at distance with people. I have patients in Chicago, patients in Florida. Now I got a new set of patients from Colorado. We can do a lot of work online. Can't adjust you online. Can't get my hand trying to figure that out. But we can do a lot of great work for you. We could do a lot of work with weight loss online too. So our quasi-favorite subject of weight loss comes up. And one of the things I got a very good question. If you remember from last week through the genius of Honey Sturzer, we've changed our program from, I'll probably thank you every week for that, from intermittent fasting to intermittent eating. And the question was, well, how many days do you have to do of each? And the answer is, I like to be honest with people. There's never been a study, what if you do it 3 days like this, 4 days like that, 4 days like that. There's been no studies. We have to figure it out and we have to find out. Most of the way we do the intermittent eating is where people do it for 5 days, and then they have 2 regular eating days. Is that the best and only way to do it? It might be the best to start, but it's not the only way. So I had somebody yesterday say, I really think I can only do it 3 days a week. Excellent. Let's do it 3 days a week. What's the big deal? Let's get started. Because I find with the intermittent eating program, people actually, once you get over that hump, people actually like it. They have more energy. They feel better. And then they just naturally spread the eating hours out and add more days. And there's nothing wrong with doing it every day. Find your comfort level. But the key thing is to do it, to think about it. Listen, as we've said many times, right? You do most of your intermittent, in the intermittent eating program, most of your non-eating time, you're sleeping. So, you get, it's like a given head start, right from the beginning.
Yeah. And it's just really interesting, even for people who aren't looking to lose weight, but have some blood sugar issues, how much better they look. And you can just see it in your skin because the intermittent eating really impacts that blood sugar issue dramatically, and people are reporting feeling so much better.
I don't want to say most, but I would say many problems that people have are because you just eat too much, and you eat too much of not only you're eating the wrong things, you're eating too much of it. So eating a little less will have benefits with blood pressure, blood sugar, and so many things. It's a habit. We've talked about how habits are. I had somebody recently. He said, "I can't believe it. I was doing the intermittent eating program for 3 weeks. I went off it for 2 days totally, and next thing I know, I haven't done it again for a week." And I understand that's how it is, but it's a habit. Unless you have a time machine to go back and undo that week, get back on the horse. And let's just do it again. Nothing you can do. Just have, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But all you can do is handle today. So make today a good day with how you're eating. That's all. That's the only thing we have. Also, I wanted to mention 2 other hints in terms of weight loss. One thing I found very helpful with some people is that before you go to bed at night, and when you wake up in the morning, visualize yourself as having lost weight. Because when you think of yourself, a lot of you actually, I know, think of yourself as actually being heavier than you are. But if you start thinking of yourself, kind of like you're talking about the self-fulfilling prophecy last week, when you picture yourself or imagine yourself, whether it's going on the scale and seeing yourself 10 pounds less, or seeing you in clothes that you used to be able to wear. Why not spend some of your day picturing yourself that way? That will actually move you towards that. So you don't have to make it unrealistic, like you're going to picture yourself 40 pounds less today, although you can if you want to have a good time and do that. But at least start picturing yourself as less. And I believe it has an effect on your metabolism, but certainly has an effect on your habits. So work with that aspect of visualization. That makes sense?
Yes, it does. And I think it's true. They say when people work out, if they visualize their muscles getting larger, there's a study that shows that it speeds up that process. And I was just also kind of thinking about the genetic piece in terms of weight loss. And if we take a look at your genetic makeup, we can see where you might have variants that might be causing you not to lose the weight the way you would like to, or to be a person that no matter how little you eat, it seems like you gain weight, whereas other people might be eating that amount and being stable or losing weight. And so if we can figure out that piece, there are supplementation that we can look at to help support this whole process. And that's why just looking at blood work or just looking at a diet or just doing one piece of that puzzle is not nearly as effective as doing the whole combination.
Yeah, in the genetics, right, we saw that there are some people who burn certain types of foods better. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean you should wait until you do your genetics with us to start the program. Start now. It's fine. It will be fine for you. I use that mostly with people who get stuck. And the truth is, if people do this, people can really get going right away and have a tremendous start to the program. The other thing I find also is how you view yourself. So I had somebody who had a really hard time with desserts. Shocking, right? There are people actually like that. So I told them that what I wanted them to do is to say over and over to themselves the following: I'm somebody who doesn't eat dessert. And they just started saying that, and it really made a big difference to them. So when they were offered dessert, what's the first thing that went into their mind? No, can I? In the past, it would have been, I hope I can get away with just one or two pieces. The first thing in their mind was, I'm somebody who doesn't eat dessert. And it wasn't foolproof, but it helped. Because if you're eating dessert, you know why you're eating it? It's because you think you're somebody who eats desserts. That's it. You think you are a person who eats desserts. If you get in your brain that you're somebody who doesn't eat dessert, you know what's going to happen? You're not going to have them. Because you change your thought process about who you are. So now you're thinking of yourself as slimmer. You're thinking of yourself as somebody who, for X hours a day, doesn't eat because you're doing intermittent eating. You're thinking of yourself as somebody who doesn't eat desserts. You're thinking of yourself as somebody who exercises the way we told you. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to start doing that. Now, contrast that with yourself thinking of somebody, I can't do it. I need a couple of desserts. This intermittent eating is too much for me. I can't exercise. I don't have the time. So what do you think is going to happen to you? Just what's been happening to most of you. So change your thought process. Again, what I love about changing thought process that how much does it cost? A big fat zero. So you're thinking about yourself anyway. Listen, you are telling yourself things anyway. So why not be your own friend? Change yourself to thinking of yourself in a good way. Please. Listen, do it for one day. Do it for 1 hour. I told a story weeks ago about the 1 hour drive I had, or half-hour drive from Princeton to New Brunswick, how I had this different image of myself as somebody. I walked out of the car, I felt totally different. And I like to do that sometimes. Think of yourself differently. Be your friend in this endeavor to be healthy and to have a fun life. Think of yourself that way.
Good plan.
So you do that, and then you couple it, right? You couple it with the eating.
Yeah.
And, you've got a good chance for success.
And I think that we often have this image of ourselves because we'll eat the dessert or that we're actually not taking care of ourselves. So even layering it with, I'm a healthy person and I do things for myself to keep myself healthy.
Right.
If you start with that, it sort of sets the tone that you're, the person who always wants to eat dessert. Well, you know what? I'm not that. I don't do those things. Like I don't go to the gym. I know these kind of people that do that, go to the gym, but I'm not one of those. But just say to yourself, I'm healthy, and I do the kinds of things that keep me healthy.
I had a patient, again, somebody I never met. She only lives down the shore, but she can never get to me. So I've been doing weight loss with her. So I finally got her to do the weight loss program. She's not somebody who had to cut down or change her exercise. She had been doing nothing. So I finally got her convinced to just do the stair running twice a day, 15 seconds twice a day to get her metabolism going. So basically she was exercising 4 minutes a week. Her first comment to me when she emailed me was, wow, I am really out of shape. But the second comment was, it really has started making a change in her metabolism. And she saw that, listen, this week she lost a pound, but every other week she'd been gaining a pound or two. So it's not about, you don't have to take big bites, pun intended. You can take small bites. And remember, chew. Chew your food. The other thing we talked about is that you have a certain amount of time you're going to eat. If you chew your food, you'll taste it. You may find out that some of the food you've been eating you don't actually really like. So chew your food well and taste it before swallowing. Okay, weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. I like to think of it as what we're doing is we're getting healthy, and weight loss is our side effect.
Exactly. Just focus on being healthy.
Focus on being healthy. Okay, Natural Health Consultants. Dr. Harry Schick with Honey Sturzer. Our office is in Highland Park, 249-9800. We'll be back with our final segment after the break. Please stay with us, and thanks for joining.
Sleepless nights, plenty of sleepless nights. Waking up in the middle of the night, can't go back to sleep.
Like when I first came back, it was kind of weird because like when I would be driving and a traffic light would go out or a light in the road would go out, that would kind of make me nervous because I'm thinking that at any second now something's going to explode.
I mean, that destruction. I mean, that's something that stay with you, and it surfaces.
Normal reactions to an abnormal experience. Military life and combat trauma can have a lasting effect on your mental health. If you or a family member are having trouble coping, remember you're not alone. It takes courage to ask for help. An anonymous self-assessment is available online and by phone. Take the first step to healing. Visit militarymentalhealth.org or call 877-877-3647.
The new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. The Garden Show with Peggy Ballister-Howells.
Hi, I'm Peggy Ballister-Howells, host of The Garden Show. Whether it's planting seeds in the spring, battling summer insects, planting fall bulbs, or tending houseplants throughout the winter, there's always a way to play in the dirt. Share your garden adventures with us Sunday mornings from 8 to 10.
The new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Welcome back for segment number 4. Dr. Harry Schick with Honey Sturzer. You may have noticed I have a little cough this morning, and no, I don't take cough suppressants even for the hour of the show. The cough is the body's natural effort to get rid of some toxins, and I don't want to shove them in. I want them to come out. Sorry if it's been a little disruptive, but that's the way I live my life. Not being disruptive, but maybe a little bit. But coughing as if it's there. So, a little bit about stress reduction and health in general. So, I was thinking about a big issue with stress is obviously our emotions. Right? How we handle our emotions and what we do with our emotions. And what I love about the word emotion is what is in that word. Motion, right? Emotion. That came in, it's nothing to do with email. The word emotion came much before the e-revolution. Emotion gives us a hint of what we're supposed to do. So if we're having stress or upset or joy or jubilation or any kind of emotion, there are certain body activities that are supposed to go along with it. So if it's hard if you're stuck at a desk job and your boss comes in and gives you a very hard time, you get very stressed and upset. You can't really emote either necessarily verbally or physically, but you need to take the time to do that. So I tell people, we remind people that moving around is a very good way to deal with emotions and a good way to dissipate and to lessen quote-unquote negative emotions. In fact, it's a good way to program yourself with good emotions. I've talked about the exercise machine we have in the office, and I'm very happy a couple of people from the show have started using it regularly. But one of the things you do when you do your grizzly bear workout or any kind of exercise is that what are you thinking when you're doing this? So instead of thinking, only 2 more, do I really have to do this? I think it's enough for today. You think, I'm doing great. I am wonderful. Say good things to yourself because the energy of the exercise connects with the emotion and really programs deep into your brain. So a good time to program yourself positively is when you are exercising. However, if you wind up getting stuck and have an emotion you don't want to have, the best way to get rid of it is to exercise or move in some way. Don't just sit there with it. And don't use your emotion to walk to the refrigerator to eat. What I know a lot of people do, they like to go to the refrigerator and use their energy to go eat when they have some negative emotions. The worst thing to do. If you still want to do that after you do some exercise, okay. But do the exercise first. Do some exercise to get rid of that. And when you're doing it, the beginning of the exercise, you can say how angry you are, but then talk about how great you are. Come on, you're really great. You deserve it a little bit, you know? So when you do that, does it make sense? When you get that emotion, so people just freeze, and that's the worst thing they can do.
Yeah, the exercise is definitely a way to release the agitation or the anger, and it also releases calming neurotransmitters, so you just feel more at ease. And on an earlier show, we talked about if you still feel that urge, give yourselves little blocks of time. Say, let me see how I feel in 30 seconds, and then 30 seconds later go, I made it 30 seconds. Let me see how I feel in another 30 seconds. And more often than not, whatever we feel passes. When we're happy, we don't feel happy forever. When we're sad, we don't feel sad forever. If we're angry, that's what we do know, is that there's nothing permanent about how we feel. So in that urgent moment where you're feeling stressed, sad, or angry, and you just want relief, and food is a comfort, which is what I hear most from my patients, is that somehow or other they're in such distress, they just want some relief, and food for them is soothing. So it makes sense that if you want to get away from that not good feeling, you want to do anything at all just to have that relief. So if you start to move around and do some kind of intensive exercise, even those 15-second exercises we talked about, and then after that, you'll be able to really talk yourself off the ledge and just say, let me see how I feel in 30 seconds, and just keep it going. And do it even as an experiment to notice how long it takes for you to be able to not feel that you have to go eat again. Just say, hey, let me just try it out one time to see what it takes for me.
I know that from personally doing it, that if I get stressed and I really exercise hard, right? In the middle of the exercise, I'm thinking, what was I stressed about again? It's almost like a curtain is pulled down over that. And don't worry, if you have something you have to deal with, the problem will be there when you're done. But then you can deal with it without that anxiety, because you've done something physical. You know, the reason that people get angry from a physiological basis, or even frustrated, is because it's supposed to get you to move, right? That's why it's called emotion. It's designed
to take action.
To take action, right? Your sympathetic nervous system kicks into play. Sympathetic nervous system is also called your fight or flight mechanism. So what do you think you're supposed to do when your fight or flight mechanism happens, takes over? You're supposed to fight or flight. So you're supposed to move. So your body goes to so your boss comes in and yells at you. Not at my office. But your boss comes in, or somebody comes and yells at you or gives you a hard time about something. You get this emotion. You're supposed to move. That's what you're designed to do. It's a beautiful system. The problem comes in is when we don't move, right? We don't do something. We just stay there, stagnant, and then where's it going to go? It does move inside your brain, inside your gut, inside your heart. It moves inside of you. That energy is going somewhere. Believe me, it's not. It doesn't disappear into thin air. So if you don't do something with it, even if you can change it around where you can take a bad thing and make a good thing out of it, or you play a mind game with it, which is good, but the emotion has to happen too. You're frustrated. You're supposed to move around, not just sit there.
Mm-hmm. And we did mention it, I think, on our last show, the idea that you could actually just run in place. You sit in your chair and just run in place. You can move your arms as you're running, and just run until you start to feel more at ease.
Right, move your arms or do the bouncing with your legs or whatever. But just
run in place.
Just do it. I think I came up with a good phrase. Just do it. I'm going
to. Our producer is running in her seat as we speak.
Here she is. Right. Not that she's frustrated. She's so happy with the show that she's just showing us how happy she is. So please take that for so many reasons. Also, it's helpful in terms of weight loss. If you just sit there with your emotions and don't do anything, what hormone is made? Cortisol. What does cortisol do? Cortisol, as I've mentioned before, has this propensity for finding fat cells and dropping it right on your belly. There's a reason for it, but it's not a reason that you need. It's actually a good thing if it only happened very rarely. But when it happens 3 times a day, so those of you who want to lose weight, you need to de-stress in this way also. When you want to keep your cortisol levels at a minimum, so when you get frustrated or upset, do some motion. Honey just gave a good idea, which Ann demonstrated, to do some motion. Don't just freeze. I mean, you may freeze for a moment, but then do something. So that's a key thing. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk about, maybe 2 or 3 things, but one other main thing I wanted to do is what I would like you to do now, whether you're watching on Facebook or you are or listening on the radio or you listen to it later on a podcast. And again, thank you all for sharing this. I know so many people share it on Facebook and share the podcast. It's very exciting to me. I'm glad you see value in it, as I love to do it. And I know Honey also really enjoys the show. We love doing it together. What I would like you to do now, however, is I would like you to just take a moment, because I know you're good at this. I want you to just take a moment and quietly, I want you to go back in time a week back. So I want you to go back. Actually, the time machine that you have, I want you to go back in time. And I want you to go back to a problem you had earlier in the week, and I want you to undo the problem. Everybody doing that? What do you mean you don't have a time machine? What? You didn't sign up for the time machine that you can get on Amazon? Oh, you don't have a time machine. Oh, wait a minute. So you're telling me you can't do anything about your past? That's interesting. Okay, so forget that. Let's go into the future. You use the other machine you have. Go into the future and fix something in the future. I'll give you a minute to go into the future and do that. Can't do that either? All right, so let me get this straight. You can't go into your past, and you can't go into your future, so you're stuck in your present. Is that where you are? You're stuck in your present time. Okay, so how should we spend our time and our energy? Trying to undo the past? Trying to fix things in the future? Or just do what we need to do for now? Right? You can't go back and undo the eating you did yesterday. It doesn't work. You've tried it. If there was a way to do it, it would be great, but we can't. There's absolutely nothing we can do. We can learn from the past, okay, but we can't go back and undo the past. And we can't go forward to the future and set the thing. But if we handle our present time properly, which it's actually a great relief. That's the only time you've got. You don't have to worry about going into the past. You don't have to worry about going into the future. We're given a great potential where we can spend 100% of our energy in what's going on right now. If you're listening right now, you can do it right now. You can breathe. You can think good thoughts right now. If you're watching, you can do it right now. It's a tremendous benefit that we have. So I know most people heard the present is a present. As hokey as it is, you know what? The present is a present. And that's the time that we should be using, and that's where we should be putting our energy. I know we're ready to close in just a moment, but and I know I've monopolized the whole segment here, but I had so much to talk about. But it makes sense, right?
Absolutely. So just reminding our listeners to give us a call at 732-249-9800. Come on in and get your new life started today in
Join
the present.
Yes. And it's a pleasure as always. Our show is Natural Health Consultants. Half the things I had to talk about this week we'll do next week. Please give me your questions as you do. That helps me in the first segment of the program next week. And it's Dr. Harry Schick, High Point Health Center with Honey Sturzer.